Good evening, my friends, and Merry Christmas. I'm so happy you're here tonight, listening somewhere out there in the quiet. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, what country, what city, what time it is for you right now. I always love seeing people from all over the world sharing these nights together. And since it's Christmas, tell me how you're celebrating. Did you eat something special today? Maybe something sweet or something your family always makes this time of year. Or maybe it was just a warm drink and a quiet night, which sometimes feels even better. Wherever you are, I hope you sit warm. I hope there's a little light nearby. Maybe a candle, maybe a tree, maybe just the soft glow of the screen as you start to drift. Now close your eyes a little. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine we're stepping outside, far from towns and lights, into a winter that feels older than memory, a winter from the Middle Ages. It's the hour before dawn, and you're already awake. The air burns with cold sharp enough to sting your throat when you breathe. Frost covers the hillside like glass dust, and when you take a step, the grass beneath your boots snaps and crackles. You can see your breath, white and heavy, and it feels like smoke from a fire that isn't there. Downhill, somewhere in the dark, you hear movement. The faint shifting of sheep, the soft clink of small bells hanging from their necks. That sound means everything is still all right. The flock is calm. The night is holding steady. You pull your wool cloak tighter, feeling the rough weave against your skin. The cloth smells of smoke and earth and old rain. It's heavy, uneven, patched so many times that each stitch feels like a memory of another winter survived. The cold is not new to you. It never is. You crouch for a moment and rub your hands together. The fingers barely respond. Stiff from frost, the nails rimmed with dirt and ash. You breathe into them, watching the small cloud rise and fade. The warmth lasts only a second, but that second matters. The sky above is a dome of hard stars, glittering like ice. There's no sound but the wind sliding across the open ground, moving through grass that's frozen in place. The world feels paused, suspended between night and dawn. This is where you live now, in the spaces between things, between waking and sleep, between comfort and endurance. In the Middle Ages, a shepherd never truly rested. Not in winter. Wool was wealth, and wealth did not sleep. The sheep you guard are more valuable than you are, and yet you live beside them, breathing the same cold air, walking the same paths, dreaming under the same endless sky. You turn your back to the wind, kneel, and start preparing where you'll lie. The ground is hard as stone, so you search for a place where the land curves gently inward, a hollow that blocks the wind. You know this terrain the way others know city streets. Every ridge, every dip, every rock that catches heat longer than the rest. From a small bundle, you scatter some dry grass you gathered earlier. Straw, brittle, and yellow. It won't be soft, but it will keep the frost from pulling warmth out of your body too fast. You spread it with your gloved hands, then sit for a moment, feeling the air move around you. Your dog circles twice and lies down beside you, pressing close, his fur thick, his breath visible in the moonlight. He sighs, and the sound almost feels human. You place a hand on his side and feel the steady rise and fall. That rhythm has kept you alive more than once. Around you, the sheep murmur, soft and rhythmic. You know them by sound, by breath, by instinct. When one moves too fast, you wake instantly. When they're calm, you allow your body to loosen a little, to drift somewhere between awareness and rest. You lie on your side now, cloak pulled tight around your shoulders, knees drawn up slightly toward your chest. It's a posture every shepherd learns, not from books but from cold nights like this, when the air itself feels sharp enough to cut. The wind brushes against your back, but the cloak holds. Beneath you, the straw crackles softly. Your breath warms the space between the folds of wool near your face. For a moment it almost feels like shelter. Sleep, when it comes, will not be deep. It never is. It will come in short bursts, minutes at a time, never more. The brain learns this rhythm, this half-sleep, that never fully lets go. You listen even as you rest. A shepherd's ears never sleep. Some say they used to sleep with their heads uphill so bad spirits couldn't slide into their dreams. Maybe that's superstition, maybe not, but you realize even now, your body has turned that way without thinking. Head toward the higher slope, feet pointing down. The habits of generations live quietly in you. The cold moves differently as the night deepens. It creeps rather than strikes. First your fingers, then your jaw, then your knees. You pull your hands inside your sleeves, tucking them beneath your chest. Your dog shifts closer, his warmth steady as a fire that never flares. You think briefly of stone houses far below, of roofs that don't move in the wind, of walls that hold heat instead of losing it. You picture fires, families, bread baking somewhere unseen. The thought burns for a moment, then fades. You can't afford envy. It uses energy. Out here, even longing has a price. The fire you built earlier is just embers now. It breathes faintly, glowing deep red under a thin layer of ash. You reach forward and stir it with a stick, careful not to let sparks rise. Too much light might startle the sheep, or draw eyes you'd rather not see. There's a rhythm to tending a night fire. One stick, then rest. Wait, then another. You never feed it fast. A fire too big makes sweat, and sweat is deadly. A shepherd's warmth must stay dry. You've learned that from older men, from stories passed between one winter and the next. You watch the smoke curl upward and disappear. The smell fills your lungs, earthy and comforting. That scent clings to you, to your clothes, to the wool of your cloak. You've stopped trying to wash it out. It's the smell of work, of safety, of being alive in the cold. You settle again, lying back, eyes half closed. The dog breathes softly beside you. The flock has quieted. Sleep comes in fragments now, shallow and necessary. You let it. At some point you wake. You don't know why. Maybe the cold reached your bones. Maybe the dog moved. The sky has changed. The stars have shifted slightly. The air feels thicker, heavier. Snow is coming. You can smell it, that dry, metallic scent that arrives just before the first flakes fall. You sit up slowly. Your joints protest. The world is utterly silent. You hold your breath and listen. Nothing but the slow, heavy breathing of the flock. You look down toward them, dark shapes in pale moonlight, their backs dusted with frost. They're standing close together, heads low, waiting for the same thing you are. When snow comes, it brings quiet. When quiet comes, sleep becomes possible again. You lie back down. The snow starts soft at first, flakes drifting lazily from the sky. They melt when they touch your face, cold water against skin. Then they stop melting and begin to gather. The sound is almost nothing, just a faint hiss, a whisper over the earth. Snow changes everything. It seals the world. It covers scent, hides movement, muffles noise. The sheep sense it too. They huddle tighter. You can feel their warmth even from where you lie. The air grows still, thick, slow. This is when the best sleep comes. Not warm, but steady. The cold no longer bites. It presses. You curl deeper into your cloak, draw your knees closer, and let your mind drift. You think of food, not with hunger, but with memory. The taste of bread, heavy and coarse. The tang of cheese. Sometimes, if you're lucky, dried meat. Tonight you have none of those. Only crumbs and a small flask of water. You drink a little, enough to wet your mouth, then stop. Water is precious in freezing air. You can't risk it turning to ice. Your body is tired but alert. This is what sleep means here. A balance between surrender and vigilance. Even in dreams, your mind listens. The jingle of a bell, the low bleat of fear, a distant howl, any of these can pull you back instantly. Your hands ache. You flex them slowly, feeling life return. The leather straps around your wrists creak. You smell the wool of your sleeves. Thick, damp, familiar. Everything you wear carries the scent of the flock. Some say it keeps nightmares away. You don't know if it's true, but it comforts you anyway. You reach down, touch the straw beneath you. It's flattened now, but still doing its work, holding the ground's cold just far enough away. You shift your weight slightly, careful not to disturb the dog. The movement makes the straw crackle, a sound you've grown to love. It means you're not frozen yet. The wind changes direction. You feel it instantly, cutting across your face. You turn your back to it again, adjusting the cloak, tucking the edges beneath your body. Every motion is slow, deliberate, learned. The night deepens. The snow falls harder now, whispering against your shoulders. The fire is almost gone, only a glow under ash. You should feed it, but you don't. You decide to trust your body heat, the dog, the sheep, the rhythm of breath and wool and patience. Somewhere behind your eyelids, the first dream begins. It's not a story, just warmth. A memory of summer fields, green and endless. The hum of bees, the weight of sunlight on your skin. It feels like another lifetime, but it's enough. Your breathing slows. The world narrows to sound and rhythm. Wind, snow, the steady, calm breathing of animals. The night goes on. You pull your cloak a little tighter, feeling how the weight of it settles across your shoulders and chest, how the folds overlap to trap the faint heat that your body still manages to make. The dog breathes slow behind you, and when his side rises, a little warmth seeps through the cloth and reaches your back. It is not enough to make you comfortable, but it is enough to remind you that life still moves in the dark. Every piece of clothing matters. The tunic underneath the cloak has grown rough with age, its fibers stiff with smoke and sweat and lanolin, but the scratches help the blood to keep moving. You can feel how the coarse wool catches at your wrists, and you think of how many hands spun and wove it long before it ever reached you. The women in the village would have washed and carded the fleece. The spinners would have twisted the thread by the hearth. The weaver would have set the pattern on his loom, and someone, maybe your mother, would have cut and stitched it into the shape you wear now. A whole chain of quiet labor lies between you and the cold, and in the middle of the night that thought feels almost sacred. The snow thickens until the stars fade, the sky a pale shimmer that hides and shows again with the wind. The flakes cling to your hair, to your eyelashes, to the edge of the dog's ears. You wipe them away with the back of your glove, and feel the leather already turning stiff. When the wind drops, you hear a soft sound that is not quite silence, the creak of ice on the hillside, the faint ticking of wool fibers moving against one another as the sheep shift their weight. The whole world sounds small and close. You reach for a stick of dry wood and push it into the ash of the fire. It catches slowly, a low red pulse, and a whisper of smoke drifts up through the air. You turn your hands toward it, and wait for the ache in your fingers to ease. The warmth moves into the bones with the same patience as everything else here. You do not rush it. You simply watch the flame live and fade, breathing in time with its light. When the smoke finds your face, you turn your head slightly and let it pass. The smell fills your cloak, your hair, the dog's fur. It will stay there for days, clinging even when you walk in daylight. You do not mind. Smoke is a reminder that you can still change the air around you, that not everything is ruled by frost. The flock stirs once, a ripple of movement through the snow. Bells click, then fall quiet again. You listen, and when the rhythm returns to calm, you lie back down. The fire will last another hour, maybe two, and you will wake again before it dies. That is the pattern. Wake, check, feed, rest, drift, each act small, each one the difference between endurance and failure. You reach into the pouch at your belt and find a crust of bread. It is as hard as wood, but when you press it against your tongue, it softens. The taste is plain, flour, smoke, a hint of salt, but it fills the emptiness in your stomach and steadies you. A little cheese follows, cold and sharp. You chew slowly, careful not to break the silence that holds the night together. Food moves through you like another kind of fire. You can feel the warmth spreading from your chest to your hands, You think of other winters, of the older shepherd who taught you how to sleep without truly sleeping. He told you that fear wastes heat, that stillness is strength, and that the hill will always tell you what it wants if you listen long enough. You believed him then, and you believe him now. The hill does speak, not in words but in weight and temperature, in the way the wind slides down its sides, in the way the sheep gather where the ground holds a whisper of warmth. You trust those signs more than you trust the sky. Snow keeps falling. It piles softly on your cloak, on the dog's back, on the folds of straw around you. The flakes melt at first, then freeze again, forming a thin shell that keeps the air inside still. You can feel the difference almost immediately. The wind no longer steals heat so quickly. You pull your hood a little lower and let your eyes close. Your thoughts wander, slow and heavy. You think of morning, of the faint color that will touch the eastern edge of the world when the sun finally climbs high enough to be seen. You know what that light will look like. Blue at first, then silver, then the smallest wash of gold that turns the snow from cruel to beautiful. You know that when it comes, the sheep will begin to move. The dog will stretch and shake himself, and you will rise with bones that ache but still obey. The night presses close again. A fox cries somewhere in the valley, thin and sharp. You listen, measure the distance, and know it is far enough not to matter. The flock stays calm. You breathe out slowly, the air fogging before your face, and settle once more into that half-sleep that the body learns over years of cold nights. The dog sighs, the fire murmurs, the sheep breathe in long rhythm, and you drift with them, neither awake nor gone, carried gently in the quiet heart of winter. The cold shifts again before dawn. You feel it even in dreams. It slides along the ground, finds the seams of your clothing, tests them. You roll onto your other side, pressing the edge of your cloak tighter under your legs. The fire has sunk low, but the embers still glow. You feed them a few twigs, then blow carefully until they brighten. The smoke rises blue in the half-darkness. For a moment you sit there watching it, your face lit red and gold by the coals. The wind has stopped. The snow is a smooth, unbroken sheet, the world remade in silence. You hear nothing but your own breathing. Somewhere under the frozen surface of the stream below, water still moves, slow and patient as it always has. You know that the hardest part of the night is almost over. The cold will peak and then begin to fade. Light will return, first as a hint, then as a promise. You wait for it without hurry, because waiting is part of the work, and work is what keeps you alive. You reach for the dog and feel the rough texture of his fur under your hand. He shifts slightly, eyes half open, ears turning toward the sound of the waking sheep. You smile, a small movement no one sees. The world is still cold, still endless, but it feels a little less empty when something else breathes beside you. The embers pulse again, steady and quiet. You lean back on your straw, pull your hood low, and let your eyes close just enough to rest while you listen for the first thin call of a bird, the one that always comes a few minutes before light. The snow holds, the fire holds, and so do you. The first faint color creeps into the sky. Not light yet, just a thinning of the dark. You sense it before you see it. The air changes texture. The cold loses its bite and turns to a steady weight pressing against your skin. You breathe it in and feel it settle in your chest. The dog lifts his head, ears twitching, his eyes catching what little glow there is. He knows before you do that, the night is nearly done. You sit slowly, careful not to disturb the fragile pocket of warmth you have built. The cloak slides down your shoulders, and a wave of cold rushes in. It feels like stepping into deep water. You pull it back up quickly, tucking it under your chin. Steam rises faintly from the surface of your clothing, where your breath has gathered all night. The smell of smoke and wool and earth wraps around you like another layer. The sheep are beginning to move, shaking frost from their backs, turning their heads toward the east where the sky is paling. Bells murmur softly. You count them in your head without meaning to, tracing the sound through the flock the way you might trace a prayer. Nothing is missing. Nothing panicked. That means you can relax for a moment longer. You reach for the pouch at your belt again. Inside is the last of last night's bread, now softer from the damp. You break it in half, give a small piece to the dog, and watch him eat it with careful bites. His breath clouds the air. You chew your own portion slowly, letting it dissolve on your tongue. The taste is dry but alive with salt and smoke. You take a small drink of water, just enough to ease the swallow, and feel the liquid turn to cold as soon as it touches your stomach. You rub your hands together again, slower this time, pressing one palm into the other until feeling returns to your fingertips. The pain of it is sharp, but satisfying. It reminds you that the body still answers when called. You stretch your legs out, hearing the leather of your boots creak, then pull them back under the cloak. Every movement small, measured, deliberate. Somewhere to your left, another shepherd stirs. You don't need to look to know it's him. You recognize the rhythm of his movements, the way straw shifts under his weight. He coughs once, clears his throat, and you hear the faint scratch of flint as he strikes a spark to life. A moment later, the smell of new smoke reaches you, wet wood trying to burn, stubborn but alive. You don't speak. You simply listen to the crackle that joins the quiet morning, the sound of another life beside yours. The light grows stronger by degrees. It touches the snow first, turning the white to blue, then to pale silver. The hills emerge slowly from shadow, their shapes soft and round under the weight of frost. You can see your breath clearly now. Each exhale a cloud that fades upward toward a sky the color of steel. You rise, pulling the cloak tighter around your body. The dog stands with you, stretching, shaking frost from his fur. His collar bell rings once, a thin, clear note that seems to hang in the cold. You look over the flock. They are huddled close, the snow around them pressed into shallow hollows where their bodies spent the night. Each hollow still holds a trace of warmth. You feel a strange comfort in that sight, proof that even in the hardest cold, life makes its own shelter. You walk slowly among them, your boots breaking the crust of ice with each step. The sheep turn their heads as you pass, blinking in the pale light. You touch one on the shoulder, feel the thick wool under your hand, coarse and greasy with lanolin. The animal doesn't flinch. They know you as part of the landscape, another shape moving between frost and breath. You reach the small fire your companion has coaxed to life and crouch beside it. The heat is fragile, a pulse in the air. You hold your hands out, palms down, feeling it rise. The flames catch the tips of your gloves, leaving blackened edges that smoke faintly. You move closer, turn your hands, let the warmth crawl across your skin. It hurts at first, the sting of thawing, but the pain softens quickly. Neither of you speaks. Words feel too heavy for the morning. Instead, you share the silence and the fire, the sound of the flock behind you, the faint hiss of snow melting into steam. The sun will come soon, and when it does, the hill will change again. The frost will loosen its grip, the air will fill with the smell of damp earth, and you will begin the slow task of moving the flock to where grass still shows beneath the ice. You look east and see the first hint of color, pale gold spilling behind the ridge. It touches the snow and turns it to light. The sheep lift their heads toward it. The dog stands, tail low, waiting for your signal. You rise again, stretch your arms under the cloak, feel the fabric pull tight across your back. The muscles ache, but they obey. For a moment, you stand completely still. The cold wind from the valley moves through the grass and carries with it the faint scent of wood smoke from a distant village. It smells of bread baking, of life continuing somewhere you cannot see. You smile quietly to yourself, not with envy, but with recognition. The world beyond this hill is warm and human, and you are part of it even from afar. The sun edges higher, the fire flickers gold, the dog gives a low bark, and the sheep begin to shift into motion. You take a deep breath, feeling the cold fill your lungs, and start walking downhill, the crook in your hand, the cloak brushing against your legs. The snow crunches underfoot in slow, steady rhythm. Every winter night ends like this. Not with triumph, but with movement. You survived again. Not through strength, but through patience. You carry the lessons of the night with you, how to listen, how to rest without surrendering, how to let the earth hold you without letting it take your warmth. The sky brightens. The flock spreads wider, their bells chiming softly in the clear air. The dog trots ahead, a small dark shape against the light. You follow each step, leaving a mark in the snow that will disappear by midday when the sun reaches its height. Behind you, the place where you slept is already fading back into the hill, a patch of flattened straw, a ring of ash, a memory that will vanish when the next snow falls. You glance at it once more, then turn away. There will be another night, another fire, another small battle with the cold. But for now, the day begins, and the world feels new again under the thin gold of the rising sun. You walk with slow, even steps as the first real light of day spreads over the hillside. The snow gleams faintly pink, then turns to white again, and you can see the thin trail your boots have left behind you. Two narrow lines through the frost that mark where you've been, fragile proof that you existed here through the night. The sheep follow your movement instinctively, drifting after you in small groups, their heads lowered, their breath rising in thin clouds. The dog circles them, quiet and sure, his body cutting smooth paths through the snow. The air smells different now. The sharp scent of night frost has softened into something cleaner, cold still but not cruel. You can taste the change when you breathe. It is the taste of iron, of earth beneath the snow beginning to remember warmth. You pull your cloak tighter around your body and let the fabric fall across your hands as you walk. The wool feels rough and stiff, edges crusted with ice where your breath settled during the night. Every few steps you slap your hands against your chest to keep the blood moving. The rhythm is slow and steady, like a heartbeat. The dog glances back at you once, checking, and you give a small nod. You don't speak to him. You don't need to. He knows the work ahead as well as you do. The flock reaches the lower slope where patches of grass still show through the snow. The sheep begin to nibble quietly, their jaws moving in soft rhythmic motion. That sound, the gentle tearing of grass, the steady crunch underfoot, is one of the oldest in the world. It fills the morning air like a kind of prayer. You find a fallen stone wall nearby, half buried in frost, and sit on it to rest your legs. The stone burns with cold through the layers of your cloak, but sitting feels good after the long hours of stillness. You watch the light creep across the land, touching the ridges first, then the trees in the valley, then the sheep one by one until they seem to glow faintly in the sun. Somewhere far away you can hear the faint toll of a church bell from the village below. The sound is muffled by distance and snow, but it reaches you all the same, slow and heavy, counting out the first hours of the day. You imagine fires being stirred in hearths, doors opening, smoke curling into the pale morning air. For a moment you can almost see the figures of people walking down narrow lanes, carrying baskets, starting their day just as you are starting yours. You smile faintly and look away. That world feels close and distant at the same time, something you know but can't touch. The dog returns to your side, sits and leans lightly against your leg. You scratch his ear through the thick fur, and he tilts his head toward the light, eyes half closed. Around you the sheep move slowly, calm now that the sun has found them. You count again, your mind half in habit, half in comfort. Counting is the shepherd's heartbeat. One, then another, until you know that nothing has been lost in the night. You reach into your pouch and pull out another piece of bread, softer now from the heat of your body. You eat without hurry, savoring the plain taste, the grain rough between your teeth. Bread is not a feast, but it fills the body like a quiet promise. You share a small corner of it with the dog, who takes it gently from your hand and chews in silence. His eyes stay on you, waiting for the next movement, the next task, the next moment that means the day has begun. You tilt your head back and look at the sky. It is wider now, pale blue streaked with long, thin clouds. The wind has quieted, the kind of calm that follows a hard frost. You take a deep breath and let it fill you. The cold no longer bites, it sharpens. It clears the mind. You feel the fatigue of the night slide away, leaving only a dull ache in your shoulders, a small pulse of pain in your knees, reminders that you are still here. You rise again, brush the frost from your cloak, and take up the crook leaning against the stone wall. The wood feels familiar in your hand, polished smooth by years of use. You tap it lightly against the ground, a signal the sheep already understand. They begin to shift, the bells chiming softly in time with your steps. The dog moves ahead, guiding them down the path you always take toward the valley, where water still runs under thin ice and the grass holds a little life. The sound of movement fills the air, bells, hooves, the slow, steady crunch of snow, and beneath it, the faint rush of wind coming down from the hills. The morning grows brighter, the light catching on the frost and scattering in every direction. It looks like the world has been covered in crushed glass, glittering and fragile, and for a moment you stop to watch it. The beauty of it is quiet, accidental, unintentional, a gift no one sees but those who live out here. You keep walking, your boots finding their rhythm again. Every step loosens the stiffness in your legs. The cold still clings to you, but now it feels less like an enemy, and more like part of the day, something that belongs. You breathe slowly, each breath a small cloud that fades behind you. The hill stretches on, the flock follows, the dog moves like a shadow across the snow, and the sun climbs higher. The night feels far away now, but you carry it with you, in the smell of smoke on your clothes, in the faint ache of your hands, in the memory of the snow whispering against your cloak. You will carry it all day without thinking about it, and when the light fades again and the cold begins to rise from the earth, you will find another hollow, build another small fire, and start the quiet ritual all over again. This is the rhythm of a shepherd's life in winter: to wake before dawn, to endure the dark, to sleep in pieces, to move with the light, and to trust that the same sun that froze you will warm you again tomorrow. The flock spreads across the slope now, bells ringing faintly, a slow river of white and brown wool flowing over the snow. You stop for a moment, rest your hand on the dog's back, and watch the day take shape around you. The hills breathe, the sheep move, the world turns quietly forward. The day unfolds with a slow, deliberate rhythm. The sun climbs higher but stays pale, filtered through a veil of thin clouds that turn the light into something silvery rather than warm. The wind drifts now and then, carrying with it the faint smell of frozen soil and distant wood smoke. You walk at the edge of the flock, your crook resting lightly against your shoulder, the dog weaving through the sheep to keep them together. Every sound around you belongs: the soft thud of hooves in snow, the clicking of bells, the occasional low bleat that rises and fades into the air. You follow paths you have walked for years, the same ridges, the same hollows, the same clusters of stones half buried by grass and frost. Even when the landscape changes with weather and season, the body remembers where to go. You lead the sheep toward a slope where a stream runs shallow under a film of ice. There the grass grows longer, hidden under the crust of snow, and they can dig through with their hooves. You stop, leaning on your crook, watching as they spread across the slope like small patches of movement against the white. The dog circles once, then sits, tail curled around his feet. You nod to him, and he stays still, the two of you falling into a silence that feels older than speech. The world around you hums with quiet life, faint vibrations in the ground, the whisper of snow falling from branches, the small creak of ice forming along the stream's edge. You kneel and break a thin layer of ice with your glove, watching water rise up through the crack and slide back again. The motion feels sacred, a reminder that not everything has stopped. The light shifts again. It carries the warmth of noon now, faint but enough to melt the top layer of frost on the stones. Drops of water glisten and run slowly down their sides. You sit on one, eat what remains of the bread, and share another piece with the dog. The sheep graze steadily, their breath puffing out in steady rhythm. You close your eyes for a moment and let the sunlight press gently against your face. It doesn't bring heat, but it softens the edges of the cold. This moment between hunger and rest, between motion and stillness, is the closest thing you know to peace. It is not joy exactly. It is something quieter, the sense of being in rhythm with the land, of doing what has always been done. The flock grazes, the shepherd watches, the day passes. Centuries have turned this pattern into something like a heartbeat of its own. You think of the generations before you, all the men and women who stood in this same light, who listened to the same wind. You imagine their hands wrapped in wool, their boots frozen stiff, their eyes scanning the same horizon for signs of weather. Their lives were written in the same lines: morning, work, cold, fire, sleep. You wonder if they too looked at the sky and felt the same calm heaviness in their chest, the same mixture of fatigue and belonging. The wind shifts again from the north, stronger now, carrying tiny shards of snow that sparkle in the air. The flock presses closer together, instinct guiding them into a tighter circle. You stand and begin to move them back toward the shelter of the ridge before the day loses its strength. The dog moves with purpose, darting from one side of the flock to the other, his barks short and precise. The sheep respond immediately, a soft wave of movement rolling across the slope. The sun begins to lower, the light turning from silver to amber. Shadows lengthen. The temperature falls with each passing minute. You feel it first in your hands again, that slow tightening, that warning. You pull your cloak close, your body already anticipating the long hours ahead. The dog stays near your side now, his breath visible in the cooling air. When you reach the hollow where you spent the night, it already feels different. The wind has changed direction. Snow has drifted against one side, building small ridges over the flattened straw. You kick it clear, rebuild the space with practiced movements. The work is simple, but every motion matters. The gathering of twigs, the clearing of ash, the checking of the sky. Clouds are moving in from the west, darker, heavier. Snow will come again before midnight. You accept it quietly. The flock settles on the slope above you, their shapes dark against the fading light. You hear their bells slow to a stop as they bed down in the snow. You light your fire with flint and steel, coaxing a thin flame from dry grass, then feeding it with the smallest sticks until it begins to breathe. The smoke rises straight for a moment before the wind catches it and bends it away. The smell fills the hollow: pine, resin, a touch of ash. You crouch beside it, warming your hands, then your face. The heat bites at first, the skin prickling as blood returns. The dog lies down near you, head resting on his paws, eyes half closed but still watching. You speak softly to him, words without meaning, only tone. He doesn't move, but his tail thumps once against the snow. The world grows dim again, turning from gold to grey, from grey to blue. You can hear the slow, distant crack of ice expanding in the valley below. Each sound carries farther now, stretched by cold air. You listen to them all: the wind, the sheep, the faint sigh of your fire. Everything feels deliberate, unhurried, as if the world itself has decided to move slower to preserve its warmth. You pull your cloak tighter and sit with your back against the cold earth, the fire at your feet, the dog at your side. The first flakes of new snow begin to fall, thin and soundless, catching the light of the flame as they drift down. You tilt your head back, watch them spin, and breathe deeply. The night will be long again, but not empty. The patterns are familiar now: the tending, the watching, the waiting. You will sleep in fragments as before, in shallow waves that hold you close to waking. The flock will murmur, the fire will sink and rise, and the world will keep turning. The cold deepens, the stars return, and the ancient rhythm of winter settles around you once more. The snow thickens as the night returns, soft flakes falling in endless silence, until the hills disappear into a soft blur of white. The world feels smaller now, the edges erased, the distance is hidden, You pull the cloak over your head and shoulders, feeling the fabric grow heavier with the gathering snow, each flake melting for a second before freezing again. The fire burns low beside you, the coals pulsing red beneath a thin crust of ash, and each pulse sends a small wave of light across the hollow where you sit. The flock is quiet above you on the slope, shapes barely visible in the dark, their wool catching snow until they blend with the ground. You listen for the bells, soft, regular, steady, and each faint chime tells you that nothing has gone wrong. The dog lifts his head once, ears pricked, nose turned into the wind. You wait, watching his body for signs of alarm. He sniffs, then relaxes again, lying back down beside you. You reach out, resting a hand on his side, feeling the warmth beneath the thick fur. The steady rise and fall of his breath feels like a heartbeat in the quiet. The wind changes, low and steady now, carrying with it the dry scent of frozen wood and smoke from the last of your fire. You lean forward, stir the embers with a stick, and add another piece of wood, small, dry, split thin enough to catch quickly. The fire answers with a faint crackle, smoke rising pale against the darkness. You warm your hands briefly, and then draw the cloak back around you. The cold is patient, but so are you. Your thoughts drift, slow and heavy, through memories that don't belong to a single night. You think of the long summers when the same hills glowed green, when the air smelled of grass and sunlight instead of frost and ash. You remember the sound of running water, the laughter of children from the valley, the simple joy of sleeping under stars that meant comfort instead of survival. The memory passes, replaced by the steady rhythm of the present, the snow, the fire, the breathing of animals, the slow beating of your own heart. You lower yourself onto the straw again, curling into the smallest shape your body will allow. The ground feels solid beneath you, no longer the enemy it seemed in the first nights of winter. You have learned how to work with it, how to let the earth's cold become predictable, something you can prepare for rather than fight. The straw crackles softly under your shoulder, a sound that has become part of your nights, almost soothing now. Above you, the clouds begin to thin. Through the breaks you glimpse stars, faint but sharp. Their light falls across the snow in quiet patterns, each crystal catching and returning it. You find one bright point near the horizon, a star you've followed all season, and fix your gaze on it until your eyes blur. Watching the sky helps you forget the cold, helps the mind slow until thought itself feels unnecessary. Your body begins to sink towards sleep again, that strange, shallow sleep that never quite closes the world away. You drift in and out of it, aware of every sound. The flock breathes in slow rhythm. The fire murmurs and settles. Snow slides down from the ridge in soft shifting sheets. You feel all of it as if the night itself is breathing with you. You dream in fragments, not of places but of sensations. The warmth of sunlight on skin, the hum of bees, the creak of wooden gates opening at dawn, faces without names moving through fields of tall grass. You hear voices, not speaking words but murmuring sounds that could be prayers or songs. Then the sound becomes the wind again, and you open your eyes to darkness unchanged. The embers glow faintly, the red light brushing the dog's fur. You turn onto your other side, facing him, and he opens his eyes briefly, checking that you're still there. His tail moves once, slow, lazy. You smile, half asleep, and whisper something soft that the cold air steals immediately. The wind rises again toward midnight, carrying snow sideways across the hill. It howls against the ridge, a deep, low sound that makes the fire flicker. You sit up, gather the edges of your cloak around the flame, shielding it from the gusts. Sparks rise and vanish. You add another stick, watch the wood catch, then sit back again. You've done this so many times that your body moves without thought. Stir, feed, wait, settle. The repetition itself is comfort, proof that the pattern holds. You glance toward the flock again. Their shapes are motionless, their breath rising in thin white clouds. You count them by sound, by instinct, not by number. The bells tell you everything you need to know. The rhythm is complete, unbroken. You lie down again, the dog following your movement, curling at your feet this time, a small fortress of warmth at the edge of your body. Snow continues to fall, filling every space, covering the fire pit, softening the world until all edges are gone. The sound of the storm fades into a steady hush. You breathe with it, matching its rhythm, and let your thoughts dissolve. There is no past, no morning, only this long, cold breath of night stretching endlessly forward. The earth holds you, and you hold the warmth you've made. The dog stirs once, then sleeps. The fire glows, buried under snow but alive. You close your eyes again, floating somewhere between waking and dream, the snow whispering its endless lullaby above you. The wind softens again toward the small hours, fading from a howl to a low sigh that moves across the land like a slow breath. The worst of the snow has passed, leaving a pale crust on the hills, smooth and unbroken. When you open your eyes, the world glows faintly, not from dawn but from starlight reflected in every flake. The storm has cleaned the sky. The stars look nearer, sharper, as if you could reach up and touch them. The fire has nearly gone out. You brush away the thin blanket of snow that hides the coals and find a faint red pulse beneath. It is enough. You gather small twigs from your bundle, blow gently, and watch the ember catch. Tiny flames spreading like breath across the kindling. The light grows slowly, painting your hands in orange. You hold them out, feeling blood stir in your fingers. The ache is deep but familiar. The dog wakes beside you, stretches and yawns. His movement shakes snow from his coat, scattering it into the air like dust. He looks toward the flock, ears raised, then back to you. You nod, and he settles again, curling up with his tail over his nose. The small space between you fills with warmth. You lean closer to the fire, adjust a stone, feed it another stick. The rhythm steadies you. Every act out here is a conversation with the night, quiet, deliberate, endlessly repeated. You rest your back against the frozen earth and watch the sky. The moon is setting, a thin curve sinking behind the ridge. The stars burn bright where the snow reflects them. You can see your own breath rise and join the air, vanishing as soon as it meets the cold. Somewhere above the valley, a bird calls once, confused by the false light. The sound echoes briefly, then fades. Your body grows heavy again. You let your head fall back, eyes half closed. Sleep returns in slow, shallow waves. You never fall into it completely. There is always a thread of awareness left behind, holding you to the world. You listen, the soft creak of the dog's breathing, the faint ticking of ice, the low murmur of sheep shifting their weight. Everything alive keeps time together. You dream of movement. In the dream you are walking through the same hills, but the snow is gone. The ground soft with grass and clover. The sheep move like clouds before you. The bells ringing bright and light. The sun is high, the air thick with the hum of insects. You feel warmth in your bones instead of ache. And every step is easy. It is summer, but the rhythm is the same. Walk, watch, rest, rise. The dream folds around you like a memory of something you have not yet lived again. When you wake, the cold has returned to your face, and the fire has settled into embers once more. You rub your hands together, break a piece of frozen bread, chew slowly. The taste is dull but steadying. The first hint of grey appears on the horizon, the colour that comes before dawn. You stand, brush snow from your cloak, and stamp your boots to shake out the stiffness. The dog rises with you, stretching again, shaking frost from his fur. You walk to the edge of the hollow and look out across the hills. The world is silent except for the small metallic click of bells as the flock stirs. They sense the coming light the way you do. Their shapes move like shadows under the stars, slow and patient. The valley below lies still, hidden under fog. You breathe in deeply. The air is sharper than before, colder but clearer, filled with the smell of snow and smoke and wool. You turn back to the fire, gather your things. The straw where you lay is frozen flat. the shape of your body pressed faintly into the surface. You scatter it with your boot, erase the mark. The place will vanish completely when the next storm comes, and no one will know you slept here. That thought feels both lonely and comforting. You sling the pouch back across your chest, pick up your crook, and whistle softly to the dog. He darts ahead, circling the flock, his movements precise and sure. The sheep begin to gather, the bells ringing softly, a melody made of habit and obedience. You lead them away from the hollow, down toward the valley where the snow lies thinner. Each step makes a hollow sound in the crusted surface, a quiet crunch that matches the rhythm of your breathing. As you walk, the eastern sky begins to brighten, the stars fading one by one. The color of dawn is muted, a dull gold behind thin clouds, but it is enough to reveal the world again. The snow glows softly, every ridge and hollow defined by light. You pause for a moment, turning to look back at the path you've left, a narrow line of footprints already filling with drifted powder. The fire is gone now, the hollow empty. Only the wind remembers you were there. You keep walking. The flock moves like a living tide around you, the dog weaving in and out of their path. The bells ring in time with your steps. The cold has not left, but it has changed. It feels less like a threat and more like a companion, something you have learned to carry. You breathe it in deeply, let it fill you, and keep moving toward the faint warmth of the new day. The rhythm holds: walk, breathe, listen, endure. The same rhythm that has carried shepherds through 1,000 winters before you, the same one that will carry others long after you are gone. The hills stretch on, endless and white, and somewhere beyond them the sun waits to rise. The faintest light begins to touch the farthest ridge, a narrow edge of gold that grows slowly until it spills down across the snow. The world shifts from black to blue, from blue to a pale, cold silver. You stop walking for a moment and watch it happen. The sheep lift their heads, blinking into the light. Frost steams gently from their wool. The dog trots back to you, tail low, his breath hanging like smoke. The first warmth of morning doesn't reach the ground yet, but the promise of it changes everything. You breathe in deeply. The air tastes cleaner now, carrying the faint scent of thawing soil beneath the snow. You feel it settle in your chest, and for the first time in hours you exhale without seeing your breath. The silence that has ruled the night begins to break. You hear water trickling somewhere beneath the ice, a quiet sound that could almost be a voice. The hills are waking. You find a patch of ground where the wind has swept the snow away and kneel beside a stone. The stone is rough and cold under your hand, but sunlight makes its surface glimmer faintly. You touch it as though greeting an old friend. These hills have carried you through every season, and they know your steps. You whisper something to them, not words exactly, just sound, and the sound drifts away on the breeze. The dog stands close to you, leaning his shoulder lightly against your leg. You reach down and stroke the side of his neck, feeling the warmth beneath the fur. His eyes follow the light as it crawls over the snow, and he gives a single low bark, a sound that rolls softly through the morning air. The flock responds by stirring, bells chiming gently, the rhythm of a day beginning. You rise and look toward the valley. The fog is lifting now, revealing the faint outlines of fields and hedges, the thin smoke from hearth fires twisting upward into the sky. Somewhere down there, people are lighting candles, breaking bread, calling to one another. You imagine the sound of a church bell echoing through the crisp air, and though you cannot hear it yet, your mind supplies the tone. The world below feels distant but alive, part of the same vast rhythm that you serve up here on the hill. You start to walk again, the crook tapping lightly against your shoulder, your boots crunching in slow rhythm. The sheep spread into a wide arc, following the lines of the land, moving toward the lower pasture where grass hides beneath a thin crust of frost. The dog runs ahead, his path weaving across theirs, guiding them with short bursts of motion and quick glances back at you. His energy feels endless. Watching him move fills you with quiet gratitude. The sun clears the ridge fully now, dazzling as it rises. The snow turns to a field of diamonds, each flake scattering light in every direction. You shield your eyes with one hand, feeling the warmth touch your skin for the first time in what feels like years. It doesn't last long, but the moment it arrives, your body remembers what comfort means. The cold loosens its grip, the ache in your shoulders eases, and a deep calm settles through you. You stop by a half-buried fence post and rest your crook against it. From your pouch you pull a small piece of cheese, the last of yesterday's food, and eat it slowly while you watch the world change color around you. The taste is sharp, salty, alive. You break a crumb of it for the dog, who takes it politely from your fingers, then sits at your feet. His eyes follow the sheep, and his tail moves once, lazy and content. For a long time you stand there, saying nothing, doing nothing, only watching. The light, the snow, the sheep, the dog, all of it moves in quiet harmony. You feel the faint thrum of your own heartbeat echoing in your ears, and realize it matches the rhythm of the bells, the rhythm of the world itself. This, you think, is why you stay, not for wealth, not for comfort, but for this stillness that only comes after the longest nights. The cold begins to fade from the air. Drops of melted frost slide from the wool of the sheep, falling onto the snow like beads of glass. A crow calls from a tree somewhere to the south, its cry harsh and bright. You look up and see it perched on a bare branch, feathers fluffed against the cold, watching you as if it understands. You lift your hand slightly in greeting, and it answers with another cry before taking flight, black wings cutting across the silver sky. The sound of its departure stirs the flock again. The dog barks once, sharp and precise, and the sheep begin to move, following the slope down into the valley. You take up your crook, adjust your cloak, and follow, each step measured, each breath slow. The sun warms the back of your neck, and the air hums faintly with the sound of life returning to the land. You walk for a long time, long enough that the fire and the night feel like distant memories. The path winds between low ridges through drifts of snow that sparkle in the light. The flock spreads wider as they find more ground, their bells echoing softly from hill to hill. The dog moves among them, his silhouette cutting through the brightness like a dark thread stitching the morning together. When you reach the lower valley, you stop again and look back at where you came from. The hollow is hidden now, the place you slept buried under a new layer of light. You smile to yourself. A quiet, private thing. No one will ever see that space again. But it doesn't matter. It served its purpose, and that is enough. You take one last breath of the cold morning air and start forward again down into the land that is waking, carrying with you the rhythm of the night, the warmth of the dog at your side, and the quiet certainty that you will do it all again when the sun goes down. By midday the sun stands higher, pale but unwavering, and its thin light lays a golden film over the snow. You walk slowly now, each breath forming small ghosts that dissolve behind you. The sheep graze in quiet clusters, scraping through the crusted frost to reach the stubborn blades of grass beneath. The wind hums faintly, threading between their woolly bodies, carrying the soft tinkle of bells that sound like fragments of a lullaby drifting over the land. You stop near a half-frozen stream and crouch down to drink. The water is so cold that it burns your lips before calming into clarity. You scoop it in your palms, watching it shimmer between your fingers before it slides back through the thin ice. The reflection of your face trembles in the water, a pale shape framed by frost-stiffened hair, a face that could belong to any shepherd across any century. You look older in that reflection, though perhaps that's just the light. Out here, time folds differently. You sit back on your heels, letting your body rest while the dog splashes once in the shallows, biting at the rippling surface before shaking himself dry. His fur sprays a fine mist of water into the air, catching the sun like 1,000 tiny sparks. He returns to your side, leaning briefly against your knee, the warmth of him grounding. You tear another piece from the small loaf in your pouch, eat half and toss the rest to the dog, who catches it cleanly. The taste of the bread is simple, coarse, dry, but it carries the faint memory of summer fields. You chew slowly, the rhythm of eating blending with the rhythm of breathing, and for a moment you feel suspended between hunger and peace. The flock spreads again, moving with the patience of creatures that know no haste. Their hooves press faint tracks into the softening snow, patterns that look almost like writing from above. You wonder what kind of story the earth would tell if it could speak. Perhaps it already does in the crunch of ice, the whisper of wind through dry grass, the way the hills hold their silence like a secret. The afternoon light changes tone, turning honey-coloured at the edges, warm in colour if not in truth. You rise and begin to guide the sheep toward a sheltered hollow on the lee side of the hill. The dog runs ahead, barking once, a clear note that rolls through the quiet valley, and the flock responds immediately. They move together, a single slow tide flowing towards safety. When you reach the hollow, you kneel to gather what little brush and dry grass you can find. The snow here lies thinner, and beneath it the earth smells rich, damp, alive. You pile the grass carefully, shielding it with your cloak as you strike flint against steel. Sparks fall, hiss, fade, then one catches, curling smoke into the cold air, and you feed it until a small flame flickers to life. You sit back, watching it grow. The simple miracle of fire never loses its hold over you. The dog circles the flame twice before lying down. The flock settles nearby, their shapes forming a wall of quiet life between you and the open wind. The heat from the fire reaches your hands, faint but real. You hold them out, letting sensation return in slow pulses. The smell of smoke mixes with the sharpness of snow. Above, the sky begins to fade again, trading its fragile blue for the first deep violets of evening. You pull your cloak around you tighter, feeling the heavy folds press against your legs. The fabric still holds the scent of the last fire, of the hills of countless nights like this one. You lean back against a mound of frozen earth, eyes half closed. Around you the world quiets. Bells slow to stillness, the fire crackles low, and the wind dies until even sound seems frozen in place. You let your thoughts wander toward the distant villages, the small points of light that will soon flicker into being when candles are lit and doors are shut against the cold. You picture families gathered close to their hearths, voices low, the smell of stew and bread filling the air. You do not envy them. The warmth they share is different from the warmth you know. Yours comes from endurance, from trust in the elements and in the creatures that share your silence. The sky deepens further now, the first stars pricking through the haze. You tilt your head back and trace the slow drift of clouds moving east. Somewhere far away, other shepherds are lighting their fires, whispering to their dogs, counting their flocks under the same stars. The thought brings a quiet comfort. You are alone, but not truly. Across the whole of the frozen world, others breathe the same cold air, listen to the same night, and wait for the same dawn. The dog stirs and shifts closer, pressing against your side. You place a hand on his back, feeling the slow rise and fall of his chest. The fire pops once, sending a brief spark into the snow. You watch it vanish, then close your eyes. The cold lingers, but it has lost its bite. The night feels gentler now, as though the hills themselves are exhaling. You drift into the thin, layered sleep of the shepherd, half dream, half waking, each sound around you woven into the rhythm of survival. The sheep breathe, the fire sighs, the wind hums low, and somewhere within that endless rhythm, you rest again, held by the quiet heart of winter. The night stretches on, smooth and endless, until it feels like the world itself has stopped moving. The stars sharpen overhead, burning like shards of ice against the black. Each one trembles faintly in the cold air, a reminder that even light has to struggle to cross this distance. You lie half awake beside the fading fire, your breath turning to mist that glows red before disappearing into the dark. Every few minutes you stir the embers with a stick, just enough to wake them again. The crackle comforts you, a small voice reminding you that the world hasn't frozen completely. The sheep have pressed together tightly by now, forming a low, uneven hill of wool and steam. Their bodies touch in slow motion, heads drooping, legs folded beneath them. The sound they make is a kind of whispering hush, steady and soft, the rhythm of lungs and heartbeats echoing through the night air. The dog moves quietly among them, not to herd, but to feel their warmth, and assure himself all is well. His dark shape glides like a shadow through their pale forms, the bell on his collar silent. When he returns to you, his fur is cold on the surface but warm beneath, the heat of life hidden where only trust can reach. You lift your head slightly, scanning the horizon. The world looks endless and small at the same time, an ocean of white hills stretching into nothing. The moon, half swallowed by cloud, hangs low above the ridge, lighting the snow so clearly that you can see each tiny crystal glint like crushed glass. It almost feels holy, this brightness, as though the silence itself has chosen to glow. You sit up slowly, careful not to disturb the straw that still holds a trace of warmth from earlier. Your knees ache as you move. You rub them through the cloth, feeling the slow return of blood beneath skin that has long gone numb. There is no comfort in the gesture, only the reassurance that you still belong to your own body. The cold tries to claim that sometimes not with pain but with quiet. You reach for your pouch and find a small piece of tallow-wrapped cheese, hard and sharp on the tongue. It tastes faintly of smoke and salt. You chew it in silence, staring at the sky as if the stars might respond. They don't, but something about their steadiness feels like an answer anyway. The dog lifts his head, watching your hands. You break off a crumb for him, and he takes it gently before lying down again, his head across your boot. Your thoughts wander as easily as the wind. You think of the shepherds who came before you, the men who stood on these same hills hundreds of years ago, wrapped in the same rough wool, counting flocks that looked no different than this one. Their names are lost, their faces forgotten, but their habits remain: how to sleep light, how to listen for wolves in the dark, how to wake before dawn and not resent it. The land remembers even when people do not. It teaches the same lessons over and over, until your body carries them without thought. You stretch your legs toward the dying fire and watch the snow melt where your boots touch the ash. A faint smell rises, not of burning but of thaw. You breathe it in, that scent of water returning to the world. It feels like a promise. Winter teaches you to love small promises. The warmth of a dog, the sound of steady bells, the brief flicker of flame that holds back the dark. None of it lasts, but all of it matters. Somewhere far off, you hear a low cry. Not human, not close, but enough to make your muscles tighten. The dog's head lifts, ears twitching. He listens longer than you do, then lowers his head again. If he is calm, you can be calm too. That's another lesson learned through time. To borrow courage from the creature beside you when your own runs thin. The hours creep forward. You cannot see them, but you feel them in your bones. The slow shift of the earth as it prepares for morning. The air grows sharper, a sign that dawn is near. Always, just before sunrise, the cold deepens one last time, as if winter takes a final breath before letting go. You brace for it without fear. It is an old ritual now to endure the hardest part, knowing it will soon pass. Your eyes grow heavy. You lean back, head resting against your arm, watching the sky through half-lidded eyes. The stars blur, their light softening. You think you see the first faint line of grey far in the east, but you're not sure. The world fades in layers. First sound, then light, then thought. Only the rhythm remains. Breath, wind, bells, silence. Somewhere between waking and dreaming, you imagine a voice, deep, distant, kind, saying that the cold will not last forever, that every night carries its own morning inside it. You smile faintly without opening your eyes. The fire flickers once, as if agreeing, and as the dog sighs and the sheep settle again, you let yourself drift, not into sleep, but into the stillness that lives just beside it, the kind that feels like belonging. The night watches over you, vast and indifferent, yet somehow gentle, and the snow continues to fall in perfect, endless silence. At last the horizon begins to change. The black of the sky softens to blue, and the blue begins to thin, until the first hint of silver breaks through the edge of the world. You open your eyes to that pale light and realize that you have survived another night. The thought doesn't come with triumph or even relief, only quiet understanding. Survival here is not an event, it's a rhythm. The dog lifts his head before you move, sensing the shift in the air. His ears flick forward, and he gives a low huff, watching the faint brightness that creeps along the ridge. The sheep begin to stir, as if pulled by the same invisible thread. A few stand, shake off the frost, then lower their heads again to the snow. The soft jingle of their bells drifts across the hollow, delicate as wind chimes. You sit up slowly, stretching your legs and arms. The cloak is stiff with frost, edges white and crisp. When you move, flakes scatter into the air and vanish like dust in light. The fire has died completely now. Nothing left but a dark circle of ash marked by the ghost of your heat. You stir it once with a stick, just to feel the texture of it, cold, powdery, harmless. Another night sealed behind you. The sky brightens quickly now, and with it comes sound. Ice cracks somewhere far away. A crow calls from a lonely tree. You stand, pulling your cloak tight, and stamp your feet until your toes tingle again. The dog trots a few steps downhill, looks back and waits for you. His breath forms thin clouds that catch the light, glowing briefly before fading. You whistle softly, and he starts forward, circling the flock with practiced ease. The landscape changes with the light. The hills that were black and featureless only minutes ago now glow with layers of white and shadow. The snow glitters faintly, untouched, except for the small paths your flock carved through it. You follow those lines downward, boots crunching steadily, crook balanced across your shoulders. The rhythm of walking is its own comfort, a heartbeat in motion, one step for each breath, one breath for each thought. You reach a narrow gully where the snow lies thinner, and the wind carries the smell of damp earth. The sheep dig there, scraping away frost to reach the grass below. You watch them for a while, leaning on your crook, letting your body rest while your mind drifts. This work requires no command, only attention. You guard the flock the way the sky guards the dawn, by being present. The dog stops suddenly, head tilted. You follow his gaze and see movement near the far ridge, a small group of deer picking their way through the snow. They move with soundless grace, their breath visible in the cold air. You watch them until they disappear behind a rise. Life finds its own quiet paths even in the frozen season. That truth, more than anything, comforts you. When the sun finally breaks over the horizon, its light spills across the hills in a slow wave. It touches the flock first, turning their coats to gold, then it reaches your face, and for a brief, perfect moment, you close your eyes and feel it, the fragile, almost forgotten warmth of sunlight. The cold still lives inside your bones, but it loosens now, melting just enough to make you breathe deeper. You hold that breath for a while, then let it go, watching it drift upward like prayer smoke. The world begins to move again. The bells grow louder as the flock spreads, the wind carries sound more freely, and the day opens like a slow unfolding map. You follow the path along the ridge, keeping the sun on your shoulder. The air smells different now, alive again, with the faint sweetness of thawing frost and the damp promise of spring hiding somewhere beneath the snow. You pass an old stone marker half buried in ice, its carvings worn smooth by centuries of weather. You touch it briefly as you go, a gesture older than thought. Perhaps others before you touched the same stone at the same hour, watching the same sun rise over the same frozen hills. The idea brings a quiet strength that words can't hold. You keep walking. The flock moves with you, the dog runs ahead, and the day grows brighter. Each step forward feels lighter than the last. Though the ground remains hard, you are tired, yes, but your tiredness has become something sacred, proof that you've shared in the work of the earth itself. By the time the sun climbs high enough to cast real warmth, you've reached a slope where the snow melts faster. Small patches of brown earth peek through like old scars. You kneel, scoop a handful of the wet soil and rub it between your fingers. It smells rich and dark, a reminder that life sleeps here, waiting. You smile faintly, rise and whistle for the dog. The flock answers first, the bells chiming like distant laughter, and the dog bounds forward through the snow. The world around you feels vast, endless, but also kind. The cold has softened, the silence has lifted, and the land breathes again. You keep walking through it all, one shepherd among thousands of winters, your shadow long and bright against the glittering snow. By late morning the frost begins to surrender, bead by bead, and the slopes breathe faint threads of mist that curl upward into the warming air. The light feels thin but clean. You loosen the clasp of your cloak and roll your shoulders, feeling weight slip from your back in a slow, quiet wave. Around you the flock grazes with unhurried rhythm, their hooves cutting neat, dark circles into the melting snow. Each sound, each crunch, each bell blends into something steady, almost musical. You walk along the ridge until the land dips toward a cluster of bare trees. Their trunks glisten with moisture, and from the highest branches thin drops of thaw fall with the smallest clicks against the frozen ground. You pause beneath them and look upward, eyes tracing the pale veins of the sky between the branches. The stillness here is deep enough that you can hear your own breath echo inside it. The dog runs ahead, splashing through the shallow water that now threads down the path. He stops at a low bank and digs playfully, scattering mud that steams faintly in the sun. His joy feels ancient pure, proof that even in cold life seeks movement. You call him softly, and he trots back, tail brushing your knee as if to remind you he is near. His fur smells of smoke and snow. You kneel and open your pouch again. Inside there's a small strip of dried meat you saved from the last village. You hold it out, let him take it from your hand, then eat what remains yourself. The salt stings your tongue, but the strength returns quickly. You sip from the flask, water now melted from last night's snow, and the cold liquid feels like it reaches every corner of your body. The sun climbs higher, burning off what remains of the mist. The sky deepens to a pale blue, endless and wide. You can see far now, the valley rolling away into distance, fields hidden under white, and beyond them, the faint thread of a road leading toward unseen villages. Smoke rises here and there, thin and fragile as spider silk. You know that by evening, every hearth below will be lit again, every door barred against the coming dark, and you will still be here, above it all, watching. You begin to walk again, following the slope downward, where the snow turns soft and heavy beneath your boots. The ground squelches faintly with meltwater. You think about how this same snow will soon feed the grass, how the sheep that suffer through these months will graze again in fields of green. The cycle never ends. It only slows for winter, breathes deeper, waits. You find a low rock and sit. The dog settles beside you, head resting on your boot. The flock spreads out before you like a slow-moving sea, each back a small island of wool and steam. You reach down and run your gloved fingers through the dog's fur, feeling the warmth and life beneath. The quiet presses close, but it no longer feels like isolation. It feels earned. Somewhere far away a bell rings, a real one this time. Not from your flock, but from a church down in the valley. The sound rises and falls, soft but certain, each tone melting into the cold air until it reaches even this high hill. You listen without moving. For a moment you imagine the faces of those who hear it closer. The baker opening his shutters, the children chasing one another through snow-dusted lanes, the old woman crossing herself by the hearth. The sound binds you all, though they will never know your name. The bell fades. The wind takes its place, brushing past your face, tugging gently at the edge of your cloak. It carries with it the faint scent of wood smoke and something sweeter, maybe hay or bread baking far away. The dog's ears flick. He smells it too. You smile, not because you will have any of it, but because it reminds you that the world is alive beyond this silence. You rise once more and stretch. The sun hangs higher now, gleaming off every surface. Your eyes water from the brightness, but you don't look away. You breathe the light in, let it settle somewhere deep. The cold will return tonight, you know that. But for now, for this single breath, the air feels forgiving. You glance at the flock, at the dog waiting for your next step, and then begin the slow descent toward the valley. Each step carries you through thawing snow, through the sound of water dripping from stones, through the heart of a world waking inch by inch. The bells follow behind you, soft and steady, a chorus older than words. The land listens, the wind hums, and you walk on, one more shepherd moving through the long, slow rhythm of winter turning towards spring. By early afternoon, the warmth grows bold enough to carve small rivers through the snow. The hills shimmer with threads of meltwater, each one catching the sunlight as it slides toward the valley. The air hums faintly with the sound of dripping and trickling, a new kind of music, softer and faster than the bells, but carrying the same rhythm. You walk slowly through it, boots sinking into the damp earth beneath the thaw. Each step releases the smell of soil, wet and ancient, like the breath of the world stirring from sleep. The dog moves ahead, splashing through the thin water with playful ease. His joy is infectious, and for the first time in weeks you let yourself laugh. A low, surprised sound that vanishes into the open air. It feels strange and light, like something borrowed from another life. The flock follows the sound, lifting their heads briefly before returning to the slow, patient act of grazing. Even they seem calmer now, as if they too sense the promise hidden beneath the melting snow. You reach a small patch of exposed grass, bright green against the white, and kneel to touch it. The blades bend softly beneath your fingers, slick with water, fragile but alive. You close your eyes and breathe in its scent. Sharp, sweet, impossible to mistake. It smells of everything you've been waiting for. You remember the fields of summer, the warmth of sun through wool, the long, quiet evenings when the hills glowed gold. You realize you've carried those memories, like hidden embers, all winter long. The dog returns to you, pressing his nose into your palm. You scratch his head and feel the warmth of him, solid and reassuring. The two of you sit there in the half-melted snow, sharing the moment without words. The flock moves lazily around you, bells ringing in slow, uneven rhythm, the sound scattering like silver through the air. You pull your cloak tighter, not from cold but from habit, and rest your elbows on your knees. The sun rests gently on your face. You can feel your heartbeat slowing to match the steady rhythm of the land. Slow, patient, content. The wind has softened to a sigh now, carrying the scent of far-off wood smoke and damp earth. You imagine it passing over villages and rivers, over fields not yet awake, gathering whispers from every place it touches before bringing them here. The sky deepens to a clearer blue as the afternoon unfolds. Clouds drift lazily across it, white as wool. You trace their shapes, idly noting how they mirror your flock, scattered, aimless, yet bound together by invisible purpose. The thought makes you smile, the shepherd and the sky both herding what moves freely. You rise after a while and continue along the ridge. The ground squelches softly underfoot, and the sun glints off puddles like pieces of glass. The dog trots beside you, tongue lolling, content. You glance at the flock from time to time, counting without counting, watching the slow order of their movement. They trust you utterly, and that trust feels heavier than any burden. Out here, it is the closest thing to faith. The hours drift by unnoticed. The light begins to lean again, slipping from gold toward amber. You find another place to rest, a small knoll where the snow has already melted away to reveal dry grass beneath. You sit, and the dog curls at your feet. You can see far now, the valley unfurling below, the pale gleam of water winding between the fields, the smoke rising from cottages like threads connecting the land to the sky. For a moment, everything feels exactly as it should. You realize that the hardest part of winter is not the cold itself, but the waiting, the quiet patience it demands. And now, for the first time, you can feel that patience beginning to pay its debt. The light lasts a little longer. The air no longer stings when you breathe. The earth is beginning to move again beneath the snow, slow and sure. You close your eyes and listen. The bells, the water, the faint beating of wings somewhere above, every sound carries life now. Even the silence feels full, no longer heavy but complete. The dog sighs once and drifts into half-sleep beside you. His tail flicking against your boot, you rest your hand on his back, feeling his warmth, the steady rise and fall of his chest. The sun lowers, and its light turns soft, spreading across the hills like honey poured over snow. You sit still, watching it move, until everything around you glows with that strange golden calm that only comes between day and night. The flock glimmers faintly in the fading light, each bell ringing slower, each movement gentler, as if they too feel the peace of it. You know night will come again soon. The frost will return, the fire will need building. The same rituals will begin once more, but tonight they will feel easier. The land has changed its tone, from endurance to forgiveness. And as the sun dips below the far ridge and the first star flickers into being, you take a slow, full breath and let it fill you completely. The world exhales with you. The cold waits, patient but defeated for now. The dog stirs, the sheep settle, and you rise once more, ready to meet the next night, the next silence, the next long stretch of winter that feels a little less endless than before. As dusk deepens, the last light of the sun slips behind the farthest hill, leaving the world bathed in a dim blue twilight. The sheep gather close again, their shapes soft and rounded against the fading snow. Their bells murmur gently, the sound carrying across the still air like fragments of a lullaby too old to remember its words. You kneel beside the fire you've built for the night, smaller this time, more for company than warmth, and watch as the first sparks rise into the dark. Each spark feels like a memory leaving your hands, bright for a second, then gone. The dog rests near you, his head on his paws, eyes half open but untroubled. His breathing matches the rhythm of the crackling fire, steady and certain. You reach down, run your hand through his fur once more, and feel the pulse of life beneath it, the quiet, ordinary miracle of survival. Above, the first stars appear. They come slowly at first, then all at once, a scattered crown across the sky. You tilt your head back and let your eyes follow their faint shimmer until they blur together. The air is perfectly still now, the kind of silence that doesn't feel empty but whole, the silence of a world that has earned its rest. You take one last look at the valley below. Smoke rises from hearths in thin, curling lines. Somewhere far away, laughter and voices drift faintly upward, carried by wind you can't yet feel. It comforts you to know that warmth still exists beyond the hills, that light and company still burn in places you cannot see. Yet standing here, alone but not lonely, you realize you found a different kind of peace, the kind that comes not from what surrounds you but from what endures within. The fire settles low. The dog shifts closer. The flock quiets completely. You wrap the cloak around your shoulders and lie back against the earth. The ground is cold, but it feels familiar. A cradle, not an enemy. The stars gleam brighter as the sky darkens fully, and you let your gaze soften until their light becomes a blur of silver above you. Your eyes grow heavy, but not from exhaustion. It's the kind of sleep that comes with acceptance. Gentle, complete, unafraid. The hills breathe. The wind hums faintly over stone. You close your eyes and listen, letting the sound fill you, until it's impossible to tell where your breath ends and the world's begins. Somewhere in the quiet distance, a bell rings, once clear, soft, eternal. And as the night takes you, you think of all the shepherds who stood where you stand now, who watched the same stars, who endured the same long winters, and you understand that you've become part of that unbroken story, one life woven into the vast silent fabric of the land. The fire glows one last time, the snow drifts lightly across your cloak, the world holds its breath. And then, beneath the endless whispering sky, you sleep,